Hey YouTube, today we're going to be looking at two very large caliber handguns, and before we get started I'm going to let you know these guns don't have anything in them, and as I pick them up I will show you they're not loaded. So I recently had a request to compare the Colt Anaconda to a Smith & Wesson 500, and I figured why not compare it also to a Desert Eagle 50 caliber. So we're going to talk about this for a little second, see some of the differences and see some of the advantages and disadvantages of each. So we're going to start off with the Colt Anaconda, and the Colt Anaconda is a double action revolver that holds 6 rounds, and this one's chambered in 44 Magnum. So a little bit of history about the Colt Anaconda. The 44 Magnum came out around 1955. It was introduced by Smith & Wesson. It was introduced the same year as the Colt Python was. And the Colt Python's a real famous, hand-fitted, beautiful revolver. And people's complaint was they never made it in 44 Magnum. Well, Colt was a little bit behind times, folks, and they didn't get into the 44 Magnum game until around the late 80s or so. And they came out with the largest snake of all of them, the Anaconda. And this little gem here was born, but it happened to be born at the time where Colt was going through some financial hardships, and the quality really wasn't there with the Anaconda. It was a good gun, but it never measured up to the Python. It had a lot of the looks. It had the ventilated rib and the full underlug, but it was just lacking. It had like cast parts in it, a cast hammer, cast trigger, and stuff like that. Well, Colt really got into some financial troubles, and they stopped making revolvers altogether. Besides like the single action army around 1999, they just got out of the revolver game altogether. And recently here, lucky for all of us consumers, they've started making revolvers again, and boy have they done a nice job. So they've released the Python, the King Cobra, and all those other ones. And this one, I believe, was the last one to come out. And this was the one I was waiting on. This is the Anaconda, the new model one. And this one's in 4.25 inches. Now, everything that everybody's always dreamed of, having a Python action with a 44 Magnum, has now come true. Because this action on this thing is so smooth on this thing, just like you would see on a Python. The lock-up's real tight. The double action trigger pull is smooth all the way through, and the single action is just really crisp and really light. So very well made. This one came with rubber grips from the factory, and I have these Altamont laminate wood grips on them, and I think it looks real nice. It has the finger grooves on it. 4.25 inch. Now let's talk about the 44 Magnum. The 44 Magnum was always labeled to be the most powerful handgun in the world, and that was true up until, around the late 80s or so, mid to late 80s. It was made famous by Dirty Harry. He carried the famous Smith & Wesson Model 29, and he always said this is the most powerful handgun in the world. And people use the 44 Magnum for like up in bear country, for hiking and stuff, for protection against this real large game. Very powerful handgun. Now the ballistics on a 44 Magnum is around 1,400 feet per second, give or take, depending on what kind of ammunition you use, and your muzzle energy on impact is going to be around 800 to 900 pounds of energy upon impact. So it's a real powerful round. There's really not much that a 44 Magnum will not put down. It's just a real powerful, very, very reliable handgun. So if you have a large 44 Magnum revolver, it's a great sidearm piece for if you're out hunting or something like that. So these new Anacondas, boy, they really hit a home run with them, in my opinion. The tops of them are drilled and tapped. If you wanted to put some kind of scope on them, I put a Wilson Combat rear sight on them on this one, because I believe that the sight that was on it was a little bad, a little loose fitting and all that. The front of the bore's got like a recessed crown on it, and you can change the sights very easily with just a little Allen key on it. So very awesome gun, very smooth working gun. So 6 rounds of 44 Magnum. This would be a great option to carry like in a chest rig and bear country, or carry on your side, while you're out hunting. There's not much that this won't take care of. My personal favorite size is this 4¼ inch. I think they look the best. It looks just like a gigantic exploded Colt Python, because it is. It's got the ventilator red, the full underlug. It really gives a cool profile. Just a great looking gun. I'll show you some of the close-ups on the side. This is the Anaconda 44 Magnum, has a little Colt pony on it, and these grips have the Colt's medallions on them. So for many years, most powerful handgun in the world, until it got overtaken by what we're about to show you. And this here is a Desert Eagle, and I'm going to show you that it's not loaded. This one is chambered in 50 Action Express. Now this gem came out in the late 80s or so. I don't remember the exact year, but these are made by IMI over in Israel, and they applied for a patent somewhere around the mid 80s or so, and they wanted a gas operated semi-automatic handgun. And if you'll look inside this gun, it has a bolt that's very similar to a rifle, and it's the only semi-automatic gun that I'm aware of that works like this. It's gas-operated bolt that works like a rifle. Very cool design. Now the 50 Action Express has surpassed the 44 Magnum, folks. So the 44 Magnum is no longer the most powerful handgun in the world, and this one's is not the most powerful handgun in the world, but it did overtake the famous 44 Magnum. And if you get a 300 grain bullet on one of these, and these are very generally speaking, folks, these ballistics things that I'm telling you, if you get a 300 grain bullet on this, you can expect around 14 to 1600 feet per second. But the amount of energy that this thing shows upon impact is around 1,500 pounds, 1,400 pounds of energy. So this is a real powerful handgun. Now, this gun is absolutely super heavy, so it's going to have a little bit of recoil to it, but the weight really helps out with the recoil. And this particular one here has this muzzle brake that's built into it, and that helps tame some of that recoil down on it. Very large caliber gun. You can use this for like bear country and stuff like that, but if you look at the size of this thing and the weight that it is, it's not a real practical gun, folks. It's just not real practical, but it's an iconic gun because it's been in a lot of movies and stuff like that. And it, if you look at this profile, this kind of triangular profile, it's just a very, very distinctive look when you look at it. Now, the magazines on these things will hold 7 rounds of 50 AE in it. They make these in other calibers also. They make them in 44 Magnum. I think they hold 8 rounds, and I believe they make them in 357 Magnum that'll hold 9 rounds. But the ones that everybody wants is the 50 caliber one, and it holds 7 rounds, and you can have one in the chamber, and that essentially makes it an 8-round one. Now the controls on this is very similar to a 1911. So it's a hammer fired gun. So when you rack the slide back, it is cocked, and you have to use a safety right here. So the safety is a little weird because it goes, it's where it's located. It's kind of a far reach, even for somebody like me that has very large hands, but you keep the safety on and it will not go off. And when you pull it off, the trigger on it is pretty nice, folks. It's not 1911 nice, but it's pretty nice. It has a slide stop right here, just like a 1911 will, and this is not a slide release, folks. I always say that. It's not a slide release, it's a slide stop. So, got to keep the safety on. It does not have any kind of grip safety or anything like that. There's no kind of texturing on the front of it. I think texturing on the front of this would help out a little bit. It comes with these rubber grips on them, and it's pretty padded in the back, and you really need that padding on the back of it. Flip it around to the other side, and you'll notice that it's all ambidextrous. It has the safety on this side, and it also has the slide stop on the other side. So left-handed people, very left-handed friendly gun. Now these guns were made in Israel up till I believe around 2005, 2006. I don't know the exact dates, and somewhere around that time they moved into the United States, and they moved back to Israel, and now Car Arms owns the rights to the Desert Eagle, and they produce them in Minnesota. And let me show you the side of this one. This is one of the later ones. This is the latest model one, and they produce them in Minnesota. And American-made Desert Eagle here. So pretty cool gun. It's this one happens to be in stainless steel. They have them nickel plated, and they have all these crazy different colors you can get, tiger stripes on them and stuff like that. And I don't really get into all that flashy stuff. You can get them in regular black, but I chose to go with the stainless one because I think it gives it the cleanest look and it's the least amount of maintenance to it. So this one has a Picatinny rail on the bottom and the top, in case you want to put any of your little cool accessories on it. The muzzle brake up front. This one's the top of the line Desert Eagle 50 caliber that you can get. But I want to show it side by side next to this Colt Anaconda. So if you look at this thing and you look at the next to this Anaconda, it's absolutely massive, the size difference. I'm going to slide it back here and just notice it's just absolutely huge difference in size. So you got to ask yourself, is the extra weight and size and stuff like that worth it, having a Desert Eagle 50 caliber? Well, it is as a novelty, folks. It's just if you're a gun person like I am and you want to have a variety of different types of firearms, you want to learn about firearms, the Desert Eagle is a cool gun. Now, is it really practical next to like a revolver? The revolver is going to hold, 1 to 2 rounds less, but it's going to be 100% reliable. It's going to be a lot more manageable to carry, and it's just a little bit better option. You're always going to have a question with a semi-automatic gun if you're actually using it for like a large game defense against a bear or something like that. Is this going to be reliable? This one's going to be reliable. Is this one? I haven't had any reliability issues with this, but there's always that bad round or something not feeding or something like that. And it could cost you your life if you were actually buying this. Protect yourself against like a grizzly bear or something like that. Probably not going to have any feeding issues or anything with the revolver because they don't feed into there. The cylinder is actually part of the gun, and it just rotates around unless some kind of mechanical issue comes up, which is slim to none. You're probably not going to have a problem with a revolver. So if you're doing this for a hunting side or sidearm or something, I would probably pick the Anaconda over the Desert Eagle. But if you want something that's really truly iconic, it's been in a ton of movies, and you just want to say that you have this and show it to your buddies, the Desert Eagle is going to take the cake. If you set these side by side out on a table and you had a party at your house and people were coming by and looking at them, more people is going to ask about the Desert Eagle and think it's cool than they are the Colt Anaconda. Now, not all of us are like revolver fans like I am, and I would probably straight go to the Colt Anaconda and say I think that's a cool gun because I'm a big Colt guy. I think this new Anaconda is probably the greatest one they've came out with in many years. It could be the second greatest they've ever came out with, in my opinion, is this new style Colt Anaconda. But a lot of people that aren't big in the firearms, a lot of them are going to know what the Desert Eagle are because they've been in so many movies. A lot of people think it's the most powerful handgun in the world now, but it is not. The 500 Smith & Wesson that I compared this to a couple of days ago to the Anaconda, that is the most powerful handgun in the world, and that one's not really practical. But I wanted to show you a side-by-side of a Colt Anaconda 44 Magnum and a Desert Eagle 50 AE and figure out which one that you folks like the best. 44 Magnum is very sufficient for anything that I'll ever encounter, and I'm not even a hunter. And most of y'all, the 44 Magnum will work for about anything you'll ever encounter. It held its crown for many years. It's the most powerful handgun in the world, and nobody ever had any problems until these larger caliber guns like this Desert Eagle came out. So this one's going to be fine. This one's very adequate for anything you want to do. But if you want something that's just out of the ordinary and have a semi-automatic gun, this is the most powerful semi-automatic centerfire handgun in the world, so I guess you could say that. If you want something that's a little bit out of the ordinary or something a little quirky or something like that, this Desert Eagle is an awesome gun. It is, I have nothing bad to say about it. Very well made, just Very cool gun. Anyway, folks, let me know what you think of the Colt Anaconda chambered in 44 Magnum or the Desert Eagle chambered in 50 AE. Thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.